everyone, it's Wright. Today we're going to go step by step on how to do the seahorse painting. If you haven't done the one from last week, but you still want to do today's, there is a downloadable option for this outline if you go to the website that can be found here and in the description section below. And then you can absolutely trace it onto your canvas or paper or whatever it is that you're going to be doing this tutorial on. Because honestly, it doesn't have to be done on canvas. You could absolutely do this on a tote bag. If you wanted to do it on a rock or even on your shoes, you absolutely can. Whenever you're ready and you have your outline done, we're going to get to painting. Now the colors that I'm going to be using for this tutorial might vary from the colors you want to do for your tutorial. I want you to make sure that you have at least the primary colors available, and they are blue, red, yellow. You'll also want to make sure that you have black and white. Now, I like to reuse my palettes. I end up putting them into a giant Ziploc bag so it can be reused later on. If you don't have the option of putting it onto a palette or you don't have Ziploc bags available, that's okay. You can absolutely use something like the tearaway palette paper or even a styrofoam paper plate. I try my very best to be eco-friendly when I am doing my painting, which is why I use a reusable palette and then put it into a Ziploc bag because it actually lasts for about a month or so before I have to clean it off and start again. So that would be my recommendation. Now the first thing that we're going to do with our painting is we're going to start with our background. Whenever you do painting, especially acrylic painting, we always start from the background and then work our way to the foreground. So we're going to start our way back here. We're going to do our background with a square brush, and I'm just going to ask you to use whatever large brush you have readily available at home, because what I have here in the studio might not be what you have available at home, and that's okay. Add a little bit of water to your brush to activate your paint, and in the side of your dollop of paint, we always go to the side, not to the middle. Okay, in the side, both sides of your bristles, and then we're going to start on our background. If you're right-handed, I typically recommend starting on the left-hand side. If you're left-handed, I recommend starting on the right. Now, you don't have to clean off your brush in between colors. We can just let the colors overlap on top. I like to start with a little bit of blue and then put some white on there. And then just doing a little bit of a haphazard blend, which is kind of like figure eights over and over and over again. I'm working on mixed media paper. That way I can both draw and paint on it. You can also work on acrylic paper or canvas paper. I'll link some options down below because not everybody likes to work on canvases. Maybe you don't have the space for extra canvases at home, and that's okay. I like to use the mixed media paper because they come in sketchbooks, and it's very, very easy to find a space to put it on my shelf. Now maybe you wanted to do your background blending with a horizontal blend or a vertical blend, that's up to you. But one thing that I want everybody to keep in mind is where your light source is. Because even if we're doing an underwater seascape, you're still going to have some light from the sky shining into the water. Now I want you to get as close as you can to your seahorse without going in. If we go in a little bit, that's okay. It's better to go in a little bit than it is to leave a gap. If we leave a gap, we automatically make our seahorse bigger. Taking our time here to blend it in. Now, acrylic paint dries very quickly, and if you haven't noticed, every once in a while I'm dipping my paintbrush into my water glass before going into my paint. Acrylic paint dries very, very quickly, but if you add water, the lifespan of your paint on your paper or on your canvas extends, so it takes a longer time for it to dry. So if you want more time to be able to go in and blend, all you have to do is add a little bit of water. Now down here, I added in some blue and black on my brush at the exact same time. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of time here to blend these guys together. If your paint starts to dry out on you, you're going to start to feel a little bit of a tug. And if that happens, you can just put a little bit of extra paint or water on your brush just to help it reactivate and blend in a little easier. If you accidentally go into your seahorse, which, let's face it, it could happen, that's okay. The cool thing with acrylic paint is that there's no such thing as a mistake. So if you do something you didn't intend to do, you can always make it work. Taking your time to blend it in. Whenever I'm doing paintings in the water, I like to do kind of a chaotic blend because I like to think about the water in motion. Speaking about thinking about our paintings, while we're filling in our background, I want you to think about the color that you want to make your seahorse, because seahorses come in tons of different colors. Some seahorses are blue, some seahorses are green, some are red, some have a ton of different colors. So just like each one of us is unique, our creations, our paintings, are going to be unique as well. And just because I do something one way does not at all mean that you need to do it the same way. Everyone's different, so everybody's paintings are going to be different too. Everybody loads their brush differently, everybody holds their brush differently, everyone has their own favorite color. So if you're looking at my painting and thinking, well, my painting doesn't look like Ray's, good. It shouldn't look like mine, it should look like yours. At the end of the day, the important thing is that you're happy with your artwork. So take your time. If I'm going too fast for you, I want you to pause the video, go at your own pace. And if you get stuck, you can email me at the studio. The email's in my bio. You can also message me on social media. Remember when we hold our paintbrush, we hold it like an acrylic painter. You're going to hold your paintbrush the same way that you hold a pencil. So maybe you hold it with one finger on top or two fingers on top, or maybe you do the claw grasp. There's no wrong way to do it, but just make sure that you're comfortable holding your brush. There. I love the chaoticness of the blend that I've created. Maybe you wanted to go more subtle with the blending, maybe you wanted to do light pillars, no wrong way to do it. From here, we're going to think about the next step. So I'm going to swipe off on my napkin, clean off my brush, and I'm going to just leave that in here. While I'm in the middle of painting, I will leave my paintbrushes in the water glass. If it's just going to be there for an hour or so, it's okay, but we don't want to leave it overnight. So just make sure that you fully clean off your brushes when you're all done doing your painting. But if we leave our paintbrushes out, because it's an acrylic painting, if you leave it out on the table, what's going to end up happening is that the bristles are going to get really crunchy and they're going to get stuck together. We don't want that to happen. So unless you're intending to completely clean off your brush in the middle of your painting, I recommend just leaving it in the water glass for a little bit. They're going to be okay, I promise. Now I want to throw some bubbles into my background, and I'm going to do that using my yellow round brush. So this is the brush that I'm going to use. A little bit of water on my brush, a little bit of white paint, and adding in a circle. I'm going to put a little bit of water on my finger, tap my thumb into the center. I'm just going to very gently blend that in. And then just real quick, another little notch just on the interior there. I'll show you that again. Circle, index finger in your water, tap your thumb into the center, smoosh it around, and then a little curve at the top. I'm going to do that a couple more times, just because I think they're actually really cute. Tap. Now the reason we tap on our thumb is to take off the extra water. We don't need tons of water on our finger. Another little, there we go. Just to make sure that it's visible. water, thumb, smoosh it around, then okay. If you want to do more bubbles, you can absolutely do more bubbles. I'm not going to throw any extra ones on here, but that's a you question. What do you want to do for your painting? Okay, when you're ready, we're going to get into the actual parts of our seahorse. So what color did you decide on? Did you want to go yellow, purple, green, orange, multicolored? Because rainbows are beautiful. You can absolutely do a rainbow. You're going to take the largest brush that you feel comfortable and confident filling in this area. We're going to add tons of water to it so that we can still see our outline. So I'm going to add lots of water in here. And I'm actually going to go with a yellow seahorse. So both sides of my bristles. And then I'm going to just come in and fill the whole seahorse. If you're going with a darker color, please make sure that you are watering down your paint so that we can still see what it looks like with our outline. There we go. So adding in our base color. And then I want you to think about where your highlights are, because the highlights are going to go on first. So where do you want to put those highlights? You don't have to worry about the blending. I'm going to add a little bit of white to our brush. My light source is coming from over here. We can tell because of my background. So I'm going to throw some extra white on here. Let that in. And then in these little grooves, these little sections in here, I'm going to start to make it a little bit more pronounced. I'm just going to switch over to my round brush, a little bit of white paint, and then inside these little sections and along the face, just adding in a bit more light. So we can see some definition happening. Back in with the yellow. And this is going to give me a variation in the center part of these little grooves, just on the top and wherever I'm close to my light source. All right, I'm going to throw a little bit of yellow and a little bit of orange on my brush, and then coming in to add some shadows. Depending on the color that you chose, that's going to tell you what shadow color you're going to use. Maybe you want to use brown, maybe you want to use purple, maybe you want to use green. So the shadow color is just a darkened version of whatever color you chose as the base. I absolutely could have gone with brown for this, but I wanted to have something a little bit more fiery, and that's okay. Take your time. Make sure that that little curve at the cheek is still pretty vibrant, nice and dominant. Don't want to lose that. All right. Coming down a little bit further. See that color distinction starting to take place. I want it to be nice and dark as I come away from my light source. If you do some brush strokes that you don't totally love, we can always paint over it, or maybe throughout the painting you're going to decide, hey, that's not half bad, and you want to include it. Just kind of smooshing that in place. And then coming down to come around the tail. This is definitely giving fiery, which was the goal, so that was perfect. I kind of love the idea of doing a fiery kind of design for a sea creature. I kind of love that. But maybe you decided to go with more of a calming kind of color. Maybe you went with blues. Maybe you decided to go with purples. Maybe you went absolutely rainbow color. 100%, yes. I'm so here for that. I'm really curious to see what you did decide to go with. So if you are following along with the tutorial and you want to post it up onto socials, don't forget to tag the studio, Dragonfly Studio Guelph, so that I can see what it looks like. Okay, now we've got to get into those little spinies. So, just really quickly going to throw a little shadow in here, a little bit of brown. If you do not have brown at home and you want to add brown, make orange, add black. Reddish orange, add black. Trust me. Okay, so now I'm going to come in and make the spines, and I'm just going to go back over top of my outline, and you can see that here with the blue, and I'm going to go over top of that just with white, because I really want this to stand out. I'm going to probably put a little bit of some yellow in there, just so that it's not a pure white. That's a you question though. What do you want to do for yours? Don't forget to add in the little curves. They're quite ridged. And if you need to switch to a smaller brush, round brushes are fabulous. The type of brush set that I'm using for this tutorial, I'll link in the description section. They're super easy to find, very, very affordable. Do I have my own set of professional brushes? I do. Do I like using these ones? Yes. Yes, I very much do. Okay. Take your time as we go through this, outlining all the parts of your seahorse, and don't forget to add water as you go. The water is just going to help the paint release off of your brush a little bit easier. So if it's really thick and heavy, you're going to end up with these little splotches of paint instead of nice smooth lines. And we can get those smooth lines actually really, really easily. All we have to do is add water. So adding some ridging in here. Fin. Nice and light. There we are. Kind of smooshing it in. If you get acrylic paint in your hair, please don't panic. Just to add a little bit of Dawn dish soap, it actually gets it out way easier than shampoo. Which, I mean, ask me how I know. You think I'd learn by now, but evidently I have not. That's okay though. All right. Getting to the point now where I'm switching from the ridging on this side to ridging on the belly. There we go. And we're just going to take our time outlining all these little ridges. Make sure you add water. It's kind of like just going in to trace, which is actually pretty relaxing. The faster you go, the more likely it is, though, that you're going to do a brushstroke that you don't really love. So I want you to take your time with it. And one thing that I actually do is I take a nice deep breath before doing something long like this. That way I can make sure that my hand is really steady and I'm not breathing, which is making my hand move. So you take a deep breath, and you can either hold it or exhale as you go. All right, so now the body is done. So I'm going to pop over and I'm going to do the face. So we have highlights up at the top with the horn, and then shadows as we come down. Now, the shadows that you're going to do are relative to the color. So I chose a yellow one, which means that my shadows can be brown or orange. If you chose blue, you can go with light blue for your highlights and dark blue or purple or indigo for shadows. And let the colors blend in. A little bit darker underneath. And then what kind of color do you want to have for the eye? Because we actually want that to be the darkest point. So I've got a little bit of brown in here. Again, that's orange paint with a little bit of black. I'm just going to come in to add some ridging with the yellow and white. And delineating. Take your time. If you don't like it, you can always paint over it. Add some shadow underneath and under the snout. Oh, dry brush. Dry brush happens when you're adding paint without adding water. I need to move to a bigger brush. You just have to add a little bit extra water in there, that's all. Easily solvable. Paint is not permanent. Your painting is not permanent. You can change it. Paint is permanent in some situations, like my smock, for example. There we go. There we go. See? Easily fixable. We can always make it work. And in the center of the eye. A little shadow. Just a couple of places. Higher contrast makes it look a little bit more realistic. coming in right now, adding a little bit of shadow in some areas. Giving a little extra personality. This doesn't that look cool? Look at that extra, all it needs is just that little extra shadow going along the ridging. Think about where your shadows are coming from. How is the light being hindered? That's how you determine where those extra shadows are going to go. There we go. And there we have it. We have our own little seahorses. Thank you guys so much for following along. I really hope that you enjoyed the tutorial. If you did follow along and you want to show everyone how it looks, don't forget to post it up to socials and tag the studio right over here, Dragonfly Studio Guelph. Thank you again so much for joining me for the creative path. I hope you had fun. Remember to be kind, and as always, stay colorful. And that's why we wear a painting smock. That could have been so bad. I was wearing a very pretty shirt earlier.